This is Seeker, a LitRPG serial by Leland Artra.
Chapter 18. Growing Pains. Ria and Gigi were not precisely great magic instructors. They spent more time bickering than actually helping. Gigi's approach was instinctive, urging Aiden to relax, breathe, and feel the magic rather than force it. The problem? Whenever he hesitated, she barked at him or nipped at his ears, growling, "No, pup. Stop thinking. Feel it." Ria, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. She complained constantly that they didn't have a training room, books, or something called a structured curriculum, whatever that meant. Every few minutes, she flapped in his face, yelling, "No, no, no, you have to shape the magic, not just fling it around like a wolf swatting flies." Neither method worked particularly well. Aiden stood in the middle of the small area they had, arms outstretched, focusing as best he could. Verdant Dominion was supposed to allow him to shape plant life, but instead of a controlled wave of plants rising at his command, the forest floor exploded in a chaotic mess of twisting roots, tangled underbrush, and a particularly aggressive branch that nearly took his head off. Ria shrieked as she dodged the mayhem. Gigi, better prepared now, barked as she bit a vine in half before it could wrap around her yet again. "Too much," Ria scolded, landing on a low branch. "You're pouring magic into everything at once." "He's hesitating," Gigi countered. "If he just let it flow, the spell would settle naturally." Aiden groaned, rubbing his forehead. "Maybe if you two would stop arguing, I'd actually learn something." That got both of them to stop, for about 3 seconds. Then Ria huffed, "Fine, one more time, and this time listen to me." Gigi rolled her eyes but didn't argue, for once. "Bing, handling difficult people is level 2. Bing, handling difficult people is level 3. Bing, handling difficult people is level 4. He sighed. "Gee, I wonder why." Gigi snorted. "I'd say that's the first skill that actually makes sense to level up." Ria cackled. "At this rate, you'll be an expert in putting up with us in no time." Aiden rubbed his face. "Great. I'll master tolerating nonsense before I master magic." "Exactly," Ria chirped. Gigi just lay down and put her head on her front paws, giving him a wolfish grin. Holding up his hands to Ria and Gigi, he was surprised they both stopped bickering and quietly watched him. He stepped a little further away and took a few deep breaths, grounding himself. He held one finger up to Ria and Gigi, giving them a firm look before he closed his eyes and let his mind focus on the power he felt all around. The connection to the forest came as he felt his skills activating. The forest's warmth seeped in, bringing with it a calming peace and sturdiness. With the connection firmly in place, he opened his eyes, seeing the forest's energies flowing through the plants all around. Green, blue, and yellow energies slowly flowed through roots, vines, stems, and leaves. Bright glimmers of bluish-green motes of energies floated and moved everywhere. It took a moment, but he soon recognized the various colors as the life energies of insects and animals. Instead of forcing the magic outward, he gently guided it, carefully shaping it, like the practiced hammering of heated metal into the form he wanted, not just hitting things and hoping for the best. This time, the plants unfurled gently, stretching out smoothly rather than exploding in every direction. Vines curled around rocks, weaving together like living threads in a tapestry, rather than acting like wild snakes on a rampage. He concentrated on keeping the vines from getting out of control, letting the other plants and mosses fill in. The area began to take on the appearance of virgin old woods. The system chimed in his head. "Bing, Verdant Dominion is level 3. Aiden grinned. "Ha, finally." "Better," Ria admitted, flapping to his shoulder. Gigi gave an approving grunt. "Not bad, pup." "Check out his stats," Gigi said. Ria stiffened. "No way," Ria whispered, staring into the distance. Aiden blinked, scanning his stats. He couldn't believe it. His intellect was now 31, resolve 18, recovery 9. But then he counted in his memory the levels, and he had indeed received a total of 13 skill level ups, and with just a little math that meant 26 points of intellect, 13 points for resolve, and 6 more for recovery. Gigi barked and bounced to her feet, making Aiden jump and sending Ria to tumble off his shoulder. "What?" Aiden said, looking around for a threat. Rhea, look at his unassigned stats, Gigi said. Rhea landed on the ground with some gentle cursing for her, but after staring into the distance for a moment, she flapped, looking at Aiden. You have 130 unassigned stat points. Gigi shook her head. Pup, you are getting 10 unassigned stat points per level. That makes his non-class almost the most stat-heavy class in the system I've heard of. Only paladins get more. Rhea chittered. I thought Erding paladins were system cheaters, but Aiden is going to beat them hands down at this rate. What does that mean? Gigi beat Rhea to the explanation. Every level up, you get the assigned points based on your class, which are between 4 and 6 stat points. You get 4.5, 2 intellect, 1 resolve, and half a point of recovery. She shook herself, sending some black fur fluff floating in the air. And some open stat points to assign where you want. Most seekers get 5 or 7 points per level. Paladins being an exception, and they get a full 6 stat points plus 12 assignable points, but they have a lot of issues getting past level 20. Aiden opened his stats again, thought for a second, looking them over. So seekers gain a class level and get between 9 and 18 additional stat points total, but you are saying I'm getting 14.5 stat points per skill level. Let's just say if we ever get your class fixed, you are going to be significantly more powerful in stats than any other seeker at the same level in any class. Rhea chirped. Aiden scrolled down the stats slowly and noticed at the bottom of the list there were a few he'd not been paying attention to, and they seemed to have changed a lot. My health has gone up 26 points, resilience is up 65 points, and energy is up 91 points. Rhea chirped, those are associated stats. They are based on a formula using the others. They go up if other stats increase as well as gaining points per level as well. What is strange is your endurance hasn't gone up, it should have. If he puts some points into fortitude, that'll improve it, Gigi said. Or he can get some directly at 3-1, Rhea huffed. He'll need it raised. Maybe we shouldn't worry about spending those points right now. I can use these unassigned stat points to raise my abilities? Yes, but different stats cost more depending on how important they are. For example, strength costs 3 points for each additional point in strength. That is because when you increase strength, you also increase recovery, regeneration, health, and resilience. Agility is 2 points for each additional point, Rhea explained. Aiden didn't want to spend all his points, but he knew he needed some gains. I want to increase my strength, agility, and perception. I think those are critical right now. Gigi and Rhea exchanged glances, and then Gigi shook her head back and forth. Rhea looked at Aiden. Okay, strength is 3 points per point increase, agility is 2 points each, and perception is 1-1. You just need to think about how many you want to add or how many points up you want to increase, and the system should just do it. Be mindful, like casting a spell. Aiden thought about it and decided he didn't need that much more strength. He'd fought those guards and seen Cassian fight. He didn't think being a muscle brute would be the solution. But everyone he'd faced had been more agile than he had been by far. And Bram had insisted time and time again on how important it was to pay attention to his surroundings, meaning perception was probably more important than the others. He considered the point costs Rhea had said. Given how much importance Bram put into perception, he wondered why perception was only 1 point per point increase versus strength costing 3 points. He wasn't sure where Gigi and Rhea had found how many unassigned points he had. He concentrated and his stats list expanded, showing him additional stats in a soft, translucent gray color while the others were solid. The new stats were unassigned stat points, luck, mana, soul, and speed. Status. Name, Aiden. Species, human. Class, NPC. Level 0. Ranks, unranked. Unassigned stat points, 130. Characteristics. Strength, 9. Agility, 7. Fortitude, 6. Intellect, 31. Resolve, 18. Aura, 3. Charisma, 6. Perception, 8. Recovery, 9. Regeneration, 3. Material defense, 3. Energy defense, 2. Magic defense, 11. Psychic defense, 6. Endurance, 12. Health, 46. Resilience, 119. Energy, 93. Luck, 47. Mana, 163. Soul, 101. Speed, 2. He wondered about the new stats. To him, speed and agility sounded the same. New information appeared before him, and he heard the system voice explaining it to him. Stats information, unassigned stat points. Oh? Still confused? Fascinating. Didn't you just hear an explanation of unassigned stat points? I suppose repeating the descriptions over and over will be my greatest joy in existence. Maybe you should invest some of those points into intellect. Oh, wait, never mind. That probably wouldn't help either. Moving on. Points earned per level that you can assign where you want. Blah, blah, blah. Luck. Because the universe isn't fair and neither are you. This stat affects random chance outcomes in your favor. That means you'll win more often, dodge fatal consequences by the skin of your teeth, and annoy literally everyone who isn't you. Seekers tend to have unreasonably high luck, which is why they always win against impossible odds. The only thing more frustrating than a high-luck seeker is a high-luck seeker who thinks they're clever for winning coin flips they didn't deserve. Mana, your magic water sink. Try not to run out mid-spell unless you enjoy collapsing like a sack of undercooked potatoes. Mana is the maximum amount of magical energy you can hold at one time. Normally used for casting spells, but I'm sure you'll find a way to waste it on something dumb. Soul. This is where things get existential. Your physical body can take damage, and if your health hits 0, you die. Tragic. Except you're not really dead, just body dead. Seekers are reincarnated 24 hours after physical deaths. Why? Because your soul still exists. For now. Some spells, mental attacks, and artifacts will attack your soul directly. Unlike flesh wounds, soul damage takes far longer to heal, assuming it heals at all. If your soul reaches 0, you die permanently. No respawn, no second chances, just cosmic compost. Speed, not to be confused with agility, though I won't be surprised if you mix them up. Agility is hand-eye coordination, dexterity, finesse. How gracefully you fall on your face. Speed is reflexes, reaction time, how fast you actually move, how quickly you can mash the attack button like your life depends on it. Agility affects speed, but barely. Speed is what separates the fast from the frustrated. System note, if you still don't get it, that's a skill issue. Maybe invest in System Comprehension Level 2? Just a suggestion. The last line made him pause. He didn't recall seeing a skill called System Comprehension, and he wondered if he could use the points to increase a skill level. But the system didn't respond to that questioning thought. He quickly dismissed the idea of trying to spend points that way. Gigi had warned about a system intervention, and he'd laid too many traps in his life not to recognize bait being dangled in front of him. Something about that last line just seemed too convenient, and he decided he'd explore the idea later with Gigi and Rhea. He decided to go with his original plan. He wanted to keep 50 points in reserve, so splitting it almost evenly between the 3 stats seemed reasonable. With a thought, he dismissed the stats information message, leaving just his stats visible. Like casting a spell, he held the concept of adding 30 points to strength, 30 points to agility, and 20 points to perception. Bing! Stat points assigned. The world twisted slightly, and he felt an odd pressure throughout his body. His muscles spasmed and ached for a moment, then settled down. Squeezing his fists, he marveled at the power he could sense. His mind raced with an increased awareness of activity around them. He was suddenly aware of all the various movements of the animals nearby. He checked the stats in his information, and sure enough, his strength was 19, his agility 22, and his perception a respectable 28. But more than that, his recovery, regeneration, material defense, and speed had all increased. He looked up at the sky. Despite not seeing the sun, he had a deeper awareness of the lengths of the shadows and the sounds of the forest. They'd spent most of the morning on all these topics. He tried to expand his senses to see if he could sense any soldiers nearby, but it seemed as if it was just the 3 of them. A pressure in the back of his mind made his arm hairs prick up. He knew they needed to get moving. But how much time did they have? An idea snapped into his mind. "Let me check something," Aiden said as he reached out and touched a tree, taking a slow breath, trying to feel the forest. It was there, and Aiden stretched his senses, searching for anything out of place. He activated his perception and tried to see through his connection. Bing Forest Kinship is level 2. Bing Forest Kinship is level 3. He felt it. It wasn't close, but there were two groups of what seemed like prickling pain, the breaking of limbs and crushing of brush. He tried to feel where those two groups were. On instinct, he sought direction and distance, like listening to the sounds of things around him. Spatial awareness activated. Bing, spatial awareness is level 2. Letting go of the tree, he needed a moment to collect himself. There are two groups of soldiers, one at the edge of my senses, south, and another northeast. Both are moving away from here. Rhea whistled and Gigi yelped, giving him a toothy smile. Pup, this might not be as hopeless as I thought. Aiden smiled. He needed to control the plant growth better, and that meant better casting abilities. Bram's training had drilled into him the importance of intellect for controlling magic. He allocated another 40 points into intellect. His head felt like a hot knife had been driven between his eyes and out the back of his skull. He screamed, grabbing his head with his hands and dropping to his knees. Gigi leapt to his side, facing the forest. "What?" she barked, dropping to a low attack posture. Rhea shook her feathers out and laughed. "Gigi, relax. He'll be fine in a minute. He just dumped a bunch of points into intellect." After a moment, Aiden could finally breathe as the pain faded. What was that? Rhea fluttered to his shoulder before whistling gently in his ear. Growing pains.
Want more? Check out reamstories.com/seeker. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Please like and subscribe to help others find this series. Your likes and comments are greatly appreciated as they help future listeners discover new episodes and supports the algorithms in recommending more content you'll love. Your likes, subscribes, and comments truly make a difference. These audio readings are produced with text-to-audio technology to keep costs down. To support producing these with greater quality and frequency, leading to the ability to use voice actors, please click like or thumbs up and subscribe to the podcast. If you want to do more, go to reamstories.com/seeker and follow or subscribe to get early access, participate in the amazing community of listeners and fans, and thus support the writing, editing, and audio production. Subscriptions sustain the serial writing projects and all their associated costs. Again, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this audio production.